Well, hello there. Jonathan Foust here. I am delighted you are here for this short meditation and Dharma talk. We got a juicy one, I think, lined up. We're going to talk about subtle energy awareness, in particular the chakras, the energy centers inside. So hang on. I think it's going to be good. Before we start, though, always would like to begin with our thank yous and gratitudes. First to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington for hosting this, and to Glenn Harrison, our producer. Also, a big thank you to Rita Moran, who leads Mindful Movement before this begins, and to our Mindful Dialogue leaders, to Ray, who I believe is going to be leading tonight as well. If you'd like the whole smorgasbord experience, Monday night starting at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, you can join Rita for Mindful Movement. This talk is at 7:30. And then afterward, at around 8:40, you can join Mindful Dialogue, which is an opportunity to share with others about your practice, about the talk, just to connect with really good people. So please feel free. Those links are on my website and on my Facebook page. Also, just to say, this is all offered freely, so no one's ever denied access. And it's all offered with joy and gratitude. And if your joy and gratitude inspires you to help defray these costs, that would be great. So thank you for that as well. I do have a newsletter, which a weekly, which gives you an update on what's coming, and then usually a monthly, sometimes it's every other month, where I kind of offer a compendium of my talks. And I also share my best photography from the month or recent months as well. It's been amazing. I've gotten some amazing shots. We've got baby eagles on the nest. We've got all kinds of, I've got some beautiful stuff to share with you coming up. All right, I think that's it. So without further ado, let's start with a short meditation, and then we'll dive into this talk and I'm going to hold back on leading any chakra meditations for now. We'll just do a practice of kind of embodied awareness, gathering attention, if that feels good. If it doesn't, put yourself on mute. Take care. And let's settle in. So let your body move and stretch in any way that feels right for you. And as you're ready, with your eyes closed or your eyes just sort of cast down, just take a moment to just sense what's happening inside right now. Just getting a little snapshot of your inner world. And ask yourself, is there any way that you could relax or soften? Any way you could relax? A couple of suggestions as to places that will help you, that sort of kick in this reflex of the relaxation response. First is your forehead. Can you let your forehead be smooth? And as you smooth out the forehead, just notice what that feels like from the inside out. If it's been a long day, you may have built up tension through the muscles of your face. So right now, is it possible to relax and soften all the muscles of your face? Imagine your face like the face of a marble statue, again, from the inside out. Notice what happens when you relax your tongue and let your tongue fill your lower jaw. Feeling the inside of your mouth and maybe even just sensing down the root of your tongue. Could you relax even more? Perhaps even softening the whole mechanism of your jaw, letting the jaw just hang slightly. You might just sense the length and the weight of your arms, from the shoulders down through the elbows, The elbows down through your wrists, feeling the space inside your hands and fingers and thumbs, and imagine this sense of the weight, the heaviness, inviting you into a deepening sense of relaxation. If you bring your attention to just below your navel, and if you relax and soften as you feel the breath, is it possible on the next 3 exhalations to relax and soften and feel even more down here, right deep in the belly? And can you feel the weight of your legs from the inside out, from the hip joints down through the knees down through your ankles, and feeling the volume of your feet? And again, just notice if you can allow this sense of the weight and the volume to draw you into a sense of deeper and deeper relaxation. Now, sensing on the inside, from the crown of the head down through the soles of the feet, is there anything right now that could soften or relax or let go? And is there anything that could relax or soften or let go even more than that? And now, from this place of deep relaxation, you might gently bring your attention to the anchor of the breath, or maybe the sounds, maybe the palms in the hands. And notice how intimately you can feel right at this point, whatever you choose. How intimately you can feel wherever the breath is the most predominant on the inside. How intimately you might detect the sound vibrations as they're happening in real time. Sensing from the inside out the palms, the fingers and thumbs. And for these next few minutes, knowing the mind is generating thoughts all the time. When you wake up with the mind far away, notice how gently you can escort your attention back to a point of focus, to this breath, to these sound vibrations, or to the felt sense in the palms. This is a practice of gathering attention. When the mind has wandered, you might take your time. There's no rush. You might just inquire, right now, is there anything that could relax or soften or let go? And you might, again, soften at the point of contact with your anchor. Relaxing the breath, and notice how intimately you can feel it right now. Soften this receptivity to sound vibrations and notice what you feel right now. Soften the palms and notice what you feel. Know where to go and nothing to do, but just simply to relax and to feel and to be. Is it possible to sense who you are as the observer? Who you are as the one who is aware right now? Aware of this point of contact with your anchor. If you relax and widen your attention, aware of everything that's changing all around you, 360 degrees. Relaxed, alert, open, and allowing. You might explore in these remaining moments of softening any sense of doing, letting go of any intention for self-improvement, and allow yourself to explore what it means to rest in presence. Letting go of any attempt to control your experience, but simply to relax and notice, to relax and feel. In the absence of effort, what do you feel? What do you notice inside? Is there anything that could soften right now? Anything that could let go even more? Letting go of all technique now, you might let your body move and stretch. Let out any sounds as you begin your transition. Just sensing what may have shifted for you over this last 15 minutes of arriving in presence. And welcome back. I'm so aware of this kind of clash between orthodox practices and kind of the marketplace practices, kind of the new age practices. And I wish I had overheard this statement back in my ashram days. I didn't actually hear this, but it would have been perfect. I'm imagining some member of the ashram arguing with their manager, and the manager saying to them, "I can see you're upset. Let's talk again when your chakras are aligned." That's about as new age an expression as there might ever be, and you might keep that one in your back pocket. Let's talk when your chakras are aligned. But I've been thinking about chakras. Is there any credibility to these energy centers in and above, around the body? It's a big element in yoga, and actually there are detailed and elaborate chakra practices in more esoteric Buddhism. Even in Theravada Buddhism, which is kind of the orthodox wing of practices, there's a lot around subtle body meditations, but not expressly on chakras per se. I have a pretty extensive background in yogic practices before I kind of went into my deep dive into Buddhist philosophy and psychology. And so I'd like to talk about chakras because on this theme of embodied presence, it can be a very powerful way of practicing. And I hope I won't be excommunicated for exploring this. I thought it might be interesting to explore some of the teachings around not just the fundamental practice of embodied presence, but working through these energy centers. They're all strategies for bringing awareness more and more intimately to the here and now and through the senses. So what I'd like to talk about is a little background on the world of chakras and nadis and internal energy channels, an overview of these energy centers, and there are many, many variations, but one way to explore them. And then I'd like to guide you through a meditative or a contemplative journey through the system and share with you some thoughts as to how you can practice. There are some pitfalls to this practice, and I'll talk about that as well. I find this can be a really interesting way of practicing, and it can be a distraction. So if you're ready, we'll jump in as soon as I clear my throat chakra. All these practices, where do they come from? All these different traditions. I always like to honor Jason Seff, who said, any meditative tradition you get trained in, you can find another tradition that will give you exactly the opposite instructions. That's true as far as I can tell. And really what it came from, all these different traditions, they came from these early pioneers of consciousness exploration. All around the planet, in all different cultures, there were those beings who turned their awareness toward waking up, toward the big, big questions. What am I? What is awareness? What doesn't change? When you think about the early yoga practitioners, way before spandex and foam rollers, there were these adepts who, with great vigor, were exploring the effect of certain practices. What happens if I stop eating? How does that affect my mental clarity? What happens if I breathe this way for a long time? What happens if I just do devotional practices full time? What happens if I focus my attention this way or that way? And all these different adepts mapped out consciousness according to their own experience. And some of these turned into very powerful traditions, which are complementary. Sometimes they're not complementary. But I think it's safe to say that when you turn awareness inside, you become aware of this whole world of sensation, of rivers or currents of energy flow, centers that seem to correspond to different mental and emotional states, as well as states of consciousness. When you look at the whole system of acupuncture, how was that discovered? to discover this incredibly detailed map of energy meridians and energy currents. I remember going to an acupuncturist and kind of getting needled. And I said to him, I said, wow, does this meridian go down the outside of my arm and then cross over at my wrist just below my thumb and then go to the end of my thumb? And he said, yeah. Here's this energy meridian, this flow of subtle energy that was not only sort of discovered, but then codified through practice. And I think sometimes we think that these practices are static, but they're not. They're alive. They're alive for you. It's a process of ongoing discovery. You're really doing the same thing that these early pioneers of consciousness have done. You're trying on techniques and then evaluating for yourself if they are helpful. So with all of this, there is this essential practice of consciously turning awareness from the outer world to the inner world. And it's just interesting. If you just for a moment kind of look around and take in your environment, the shapes, the colors, this three-dimensional world that you're aware of. And then if you just for a moment either close your eyes or just cast your eyes downward, can you take a snapshot right now of this felt sense of energy inside? How quickly can you detect sensations that are pleasant? How quickly can you detect sensations that are unpleasant right now? Can you sense anything that feels neutral? And can you sense any areas on the inside that feel like they're open and flowing? Any areas that feel stagnant or stuck or sluggish? And if you like, you can open your eyes. There's an incredible world of sensation and aliveness going on inside right now. And there's lots of new age stuff around chakras. So what are chakras? Chakras are sometimes referred to as energy wheels, channel wheels, that are kind of a nexus of energy points inside. The whole chakra system exists in Tibetan Buddhism as well as in Hinduism. In my understanding, in Tibetan Buddhism, there's no commitment to a specific number of chakras that are fixed and immutable. But as you go more and more subtly into the felt sense of the body, you become aware of sort of like layers of energy centers that you can begin to contact. Depending on what system you're exploring or how sensitive you are, you might detect 4, 5, 7, or maybe 10 energy centers or chakras inside. Reggie Ray, who's a teacher in the Tibetan tradition, he says this, he says, according to Tantra, enlightenment is fundamentally and originally present in the body. So enlightenment, it's already inside. And he goes on to say, by putting one's awareness in the body, you find that the further down you go, the more primordial, unconditioned, and unmanifest is the energy you encounter. The chakras begin at the perineum, which is the most primordial level of awareness, and as you go upwards, they are more connected with expression. At the navel, there is a sense of earth, stability, and equanimity. At the heart is a feeling of warmth and compassion. The throat is about communication, expression, and connection. And the head is less a conceptual center than a place where the energy reaches a crescendo. So the different chakras have different feels. if you're interested in investigating these subtle energies that live on the inside, how do you find your way here? And again, you're going to find different traditions that are going to tell you exactly how you should do it. Some instructions are very, very tight. This is exactly where the chakra is. Some are more intuitive. And there are those who say, and there's something to this, that the awareness of these subtle energy sources will arise spontaneously as you practice. You don't need to make it happen. It'll just happen by itself. Just keep going in your practice. At the same time, I do find it can be helpful to become more aware of these inner energy structures as you may encounter them, either by looking for them or being aware of them as they might spontaneously arise. Now, it's important to say, just for the ultra-Orthodox, that the Buddha did not explicitly teach about the chakras that we're aware of. But he did teach about the subtle body, about being more and more absorbed into the arising phenomena that's arising energetically inside. And I think probably the best application of the Buddha's teaching here about subtle body awareness is to become aware of the attachment to the inner experiences. When you do these practices, you'll become more intimately aware of pleasant sensations and how wonderful they are. You will also become more aware of kind of unpleasant sensations. You become aware of what's stuck, what's congested, what's not flowing. And interestingly enough, you become more aware of the neutral. You become more aware of where you're not feeling. Now, sometimes this gets pretty dramatic. The stuck places can have a lot of drama to them, but the pleasant can have a lot of drama to them. So the best example I can give you was when I was doing a Goenka retreat, SN Goenka, very rigorous practice, 10 days, 10 hours a day, no writing, no reading, no eye contact. You're doing the Adhitan meditation, like sittings of strong determination where you're not moving. And then you learn a technique for scanning. So you're scanning very, very intimately, exploring the subtle energy inside. And what happens sometimes is energy really starts to open up, and you can begin to sort of like penetrate through the body with your attention, and you can track the felt sense and how it shifts, and it becomes really absorbing and kind of fun. So I was having an interview with one of the teachers, and in this particular tradition, everyone's meditating, and you go up, and then you sort of share with the teacher. And this teacher was this older woman. She was from India, very, very thick accent. I'm not going to do the accent. But I came up, and she said, "Do you have the technique?" And I said, yes, I think I have the technique. And she said, "Are you having success?" And in my enthusiasm, I said, "It's amazing. I'm just feeling energy opening up, and I feel like I can actually get my awareness behind a place that feels blocked and kind of like push it into openness, and I can feel it like expanding out the front of my body." And she goes, "Don't play games." Totally busted, because I was playing games. I was having fun. I was making experiences that I thought were meaningful. So I was so busted, not only in the practice, but in my life. As I'll talk in a little bit, this practice of what this feeds into is the practice of chasing lights and rainbows. You can make really interesting things happen in this practice, and it's a real element to be aware of. I think that ultimately, awareness of these energy centers can be an aid in training awareness into mindfulness of the body, non-judging awareness of what is arising. So what I'd like to do is just to kind of take you on a little more of a mental journey through the chakras, and then we'll do a little more experiential. If you're not familiar with them, it might be a good review. The root chakra is at the base of the spine, kind of at the perineum. And you just think, if you kind of bring your attention here just for a moment, it's associated with survival, with security, with basic needs. When this is healthy, when it's kind of open, you may experience feelings of safety and stability and groundedness. When it's not, it can lead to an experience of insecurity, of fear, instability. So just saying hello to that. And then moving up to the sacral chakra. This is in the lower abdomen, and some say 2 inches below the navel, but I think it's more helpful for you to kind of get a sense of where it is. And you want to think of sort of like in toward the center of the body. And here, this center is related to creativity, to sexuality, to emotions. When this is healthy and vibrant, it encourages a sense of emotional balance. This is kind of the seat of creativity, of healthy sexual expression. When this is blocked or stagnant, it may manifest as emotional instability or maybe a lack of creativity. Now, as we take the elevator up, this brings us to kind of the solar plexus. This is the upper abdomen, kind of in the stomach area, kind of a little bit below the diaphragm. And again, your location, you might just sort of sense it here. And again, we're going to go a little more experiential. So you just sort of breathe into this area. This is associated with power, your personal power, with self-esteem, with confidence. And it has to do with taking that energy up from the root and then bringing it into form, manifesting it. When this is balanced, it's a feeling of confidence, of self-worth, empowerment. When it's not flowing or open, a sense of low self-esteem, or maybe even a feeling of powerlessness. It's like you just feel like you're unplugged. Moving up to the heart chakra, this is roughly the center of the chest. The heart, maybe a little above, a little below the heart. And as you can imagine, this is related to love and compassion and connection. And when the heart chakra feels alive and vibrant, it allows you to more freely give and receive love, to more freely feel compassion, your capacity to form meaningful relationships. And when this is blocked, it may result in feelings of loneliness or lack of empathy or bitterness sometimes. Now, if you bring your awareness up to the throat, into the throat area, as you can imagine, this is associated with communication, with your capacity to express yourself, your capacity to speak what is true. When this is open, you experience clear and authentic communication. When it's not, there's that sense of the inability or difficulty to express yourself. Communication issues, dishonesty is all part of feeling blocked here. Now, if you bring your attention up to what's often called the third eye chakra, it's kind of like between the eyebrows, but in the center of your forehead. And here, this is intuition. This is where the mind opens into presence. Imagination, inner wisdom is sort of here at this seat. When this feels open, there can be a sense of intuition, of clarity, of insight. When it's not flowing or it's imbalanced, you may experience it as confusion, a lack of clarity, delusion, or disconnected. You're just disconnected from clear seeing. So kind of like muddy water. And now, if you bring your attention to the crown of your head, the crown chakra is associated with spirituality, with higher consciousness, enlightenment, kind of a sense of soul, if you will. When this is balanced and open, it can lead to a sense of a deep connection to the divine, a sense of unity with all that is. When it's blocked or not flowing, as you can imagine, a feeling of disconnection, of spiritual emptiness, a lack of purpose, kind of cynicism can be connected here. So when you sense this sort of journey, when all the chakras are healthy and balanced, imagine that energy just flows freely through all of them. That each one contributes to an overall sense of well-being and harmony. But also, when there are imbalances, they can lead to physical or emotional or spiritual disturbances. And if you're exploring through this metaphor, and really is just a metaphor of the chakras, it's about bringing awareness, bringing loving presence to each of these energy centers. And you might notice as you practice that some areas will be free-flowing and others won't be. And someone I know really well who's an incredible manifester. This guy totally knows how to get things done. So think of that as the third chakra. That's the chakra like personal power and manifestation. But people who get a lot of stuff done oftentimes have a lot of conflict. There are a lot of complicated relationships. There's complicated motivation. He loves making stuff happen, but he's also aware that there's some ego in there. He also likes people to know that he makes stuff happen. So not surprisingly, as he was telling me, when he does a meditation on the chakras, this is his particular area where there's a lot to kind of unwind. And when I say unwind, he'll just simply notice that there's tension, there's tightness, there's a sense of things not flowing. And part of being with it is this practice of somatic investigation. Recognizing what's there, sensing if you can be with it, and actually moving into the intimate experience of it. Sensing if you can describe to yourself what it feels like, breathing into it, sensing what it needs, how it wants you to be with it. It's this idea of sort of like holding it in loving presence and watching it unwind. And sometimes in the unwinding, it can be just purely energetic, a sense of something is just sort of disbanding or something tight starts to soften. There might be something cognitive, a recognition of an issue that feels undigested, or something you're hanging on to that maybe you don't have to hang on to. And it's, on one level, it's not that surprising when you think of how the issues in your life show up. Quite often that twisted feeling in your guts that's tied into survival, a sense of like your life being deeply threatened. That sense of like having the wind knocked out of you, like your power kind of zapped at the diaphragm, so like the rug pulled out from underneath you, and that sense of loss and disconnection. When your heart feels broken or your heart feels crushed, you'll feel it right here. If you've got communication stuff, it's difficult to say what's true to someone. You're going to maybe feel it here. When you're feeling confused, you're probably going to feel it here. So I think there's something here about this exploration that can be helpful. So that's a little bit about the chakras. And again, I just kind of went through the classic 7 chakras, but there's more to it, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. There's another element which I mentioned earlier, are nadis. And nadis are the energy channels, or the pathways through which energy flows, according to yoga philosophy. They're part of subtle anatomy, and the nadis are often associated with the nervous system. And you know what? I'm going to bypass going into them because let's let this be a little more chakra focused. But it's fascinating stuff. The Ida and the Pingala Nadi, the Sushumna Nadi. It's fascinating stuff in terms of subtle body awareness. But the whole practice of meditation, of yoga, of working with breath is all designed to allow the free flow of life force, bringing awareness to where it's not flowing and exploring what's needed, what's blocked. I truly believe from my own life experience that this fundamental life force of prana, chi, ki, Holy Spirit, whatever you call it, animus, that it is profoundly intelligent and profoundly evolutionary. And that when we can suspend the controlling mind and come into contact with what's there and deeply listen, it will speak. It will let us know how it wants awareness to be with it. And it will naturally move toward more openness. And in that intelligence, it'll also move to where it's not flowing. It's knocking on the door wherever there's stagnation. And if we can pay attention to that, there's a possibility of some really interesting experiences. So how do you work with the chakras in meditation? Again, different traditions will tell you different ways. In some systems, there's a color assigned to each one, and visualizing a color can be an interesting way of bringing attention to that, of sort of holding attention on that energy center. Other traditions will have specific sounds, specific mantras. That is, you sort of chant that mantra. That'll help you to sort of keep your attention focused on what's happening there. There are specific mudras, ways that you can hold your hands that might bring attention there as well. There are other approaches where you sort of send energy, or you pull energy, or you imagine energy coming through the back and expressing it through the front. Lots of different ways of practicing. They're all sort of practices of kind of control and manipulation. So I'd like to suggest something different than the doing practices, which is bringing attention intimately to the experience that's happening right there. So the idea here is you're not trying to change anything, but you're coming in contact with what's there. And now, an interesting thing is, for example, right now, if you bring your attention to the crown of your head, to your scalp, you might notice, if you focus on your scalp, you might notice maybe a little bit of tingling, a little bit of pulse. Energy follows attention. So rather than trying to control what's happening, let yourself experience what's happening. It's a big difference. So recently I talked about whole body breathing, which I find to be a very, very powerful technique. And I'll review it here. The whole idea with whole body breathing is, rather than focusing on just the breath at the nostrils or at the belly, that you breathe in slow, deep, and comfortable. And you open your attention to the whole felt sense of the body, or maybe a little bit bigger. So I'll be inviting you to use this breathing and just bring your attention to these different energy centers in the body and just simply notice what's happening there. What you may come in contact with, there may be some strong sensations. You may notice that there's a numbness, just purely neutral sensation, or maybe very subtle sensation. You can use the breath to stay in contact. Keep your attention in each of these centers. You're simply bringing awareness and presence to what you're feeling. You might ask from time to time, how does this want me to be with it right now, as a way of bringing in a more intimate sense of relationship with what's there. Your mind will wander off. You may notice that certain places inside will kick off memories and stories. Some may be free-flowing, some really tight and stagnant. Sense if you can strip away any conceptual idea of what this is all about and just experience what's there. So if you're ready, let's take a little time to explore and see what happens in this guided meditation. If you are driving, please don't close your eyes. If you're walking, same thing. But you can, if you like, if you're just listening and doing other things, just sense if you can just feel what's here. So first of all, you might want to stretch. Reach your arms up overhead, stretch out. Deepen your breath a little bit. Let's take a few moments to kind of establish this technique of whole body breathing. When you're ready, you can close your eyes. The first element of whole body breathing is your breath is deep, but it's also comfortable. So you'll need to dial this in. Your breath is deep, but you're not straining. And just take a few moments to sense what it's like for you to find what is a depth of breath that you can establish that actually feels pleasant and comfortable. Rather than focusing just on the nostrils or the belly, you are opening your attention to the whole body, to the whole felt sense, and maybe a little bit bigger, like a little bit beyond your skin. And you can imagine an expansion on the inhalation, a softening on the exhalation. At first, it's helpful to simply notice the chest or the belly expanding, feeling slightly energized, softening on the out-breath. As you're ready, you can bring your attention first to the root chakra. This is at the very base of the spine, the perineum. You might kind of feel the floor of the pelvis. And as you breathe, again, deep and relaxed, in your own way, just say hello to whatever sensations are here. Associated with survival, security, a sense of safety, stability, of groundedness. And imagine now you're moving up through the center of the torso to the lower abdomen. And some say about 2 inches below the navel, but in toward the very center. And again, feel the breath here. Deep, but at the same time relaxed and pleasurable breath. Sense of here of creativity, of emotion, of sexuality. Emotional balance, creativity, healthy sexual expression. Now shifting your attention a little bit higher in the upper abdomen, kind of in the stomach area, kind of below the diaphragm. And again, as you feel the breath, just saying hello to whatever sensations are here. The center that is associated with personal power, confidence, self-esteem. Empowerment, confidence. letting your attention move up to the heart chakra, to the center of the chest. And as you breathe, just noting this quality that's related to love and compassion and connection. Your capacity to give and receive love freely, to feel compassion, your capacity for meaningful relationships. And you may notice that as you move higher, that there's a little more aliveness. It's quite common. Shifting your attention now to the throat. Again, first feeling the breath. Expanding and livening on the in-breath, softening on the out-breath. Your capacity for communication, for self-expression, for authentic communication. Letting awareness move a little bit higher now, between the eyebrows and in toward the very center of the head. The third eye, the seat of intuition, of imagination, of wisdom, clarity and insight, where mind opens into spirit. What do you feel here? What do you notice? And shifting your attention now to the crown of the head. What do you feel? What do you notice as you hold your attention at the crown of the head? The sense of higher consciousness, spirituality, connection to the divine, a sense of unity with all that is. And you might now just sense again the root, the floor of the pelvis, the perineum. And there are certain phrases that you can associate here. The root, just sensing the phrase, I am. And shifting your attention below the navel, into the center, the words here. I feel. The solar plexus. I do. To the heart, I love. The throat, I speak. The third eye, I see. The crown, I am. In these final minutes now, is it possible to connect awareness from the perineum to the crown of the head. And can you imagine a sense of connection, a sense of the all of who you are, fully alive, vibrant, present? One practice I find helpful is to imagine yet another point of energy slightly above your head. Maybe slightly above, slightly behind. Imagine if you can locate this place of pure presence, of soul, of spirit. And sensing your capacity to be fully alive, fully expressed. That the more energy, the more aliveness you feel inside, the more it can be a benefit to all beings. And when you're ready, you can deepen your breath. You might let your body move and stretch a little bit. If you like, you can open your eyes. Just have a minute or two before we close. I hope you found this helpful. That was a pretty fast ride going through these energy centers. I would suggest if you sensed any areas where you felt stuck or congested or tight, you might let yourself revisit those areas. Sometimes, as just part of your regular practice, it can be a very interesting way to kind of bring attention in here. There's a lot more to explore if you're interested. I find this stuff really interesting. There's a practice I really love, which I'd love to share with you, which is actually doing a form of metta, of loving kindness, through these energy centers. So that might be something to share down the road. It's important to note, and again, I offer this because my tendency is to kind of want to make a flashy experience happen. Have an experience that I can mount on the wall. There's something very powerful about the subtlety of just holding awareness, holding presence, just noticing what's there, as a way of becoming more aware of what's flowing inside, what's not flowing inside, and sensing if there's any correlation to what's flowing in your life and what's not flowing in your life. So I hope you found this helpful. May you and your chakras have a wonderful time together, and I look forward to exploring more. Take good care, and so many blessings in your practice. Thanks so much for your time and attention.